starting to regret my vote for Trump. I know. You guys, I know. I was like you. It'll be fun. It'll be funny. Burn it down. Burn the Constitution down.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners and Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, on a beautiful November the 4th, 2020. Ronald Deportes, bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, just another gorgeous Wednesday afternoon here in the South. You know, after Election Day in America and still no results, we're still doing okay.
Still doing okay.
I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. They do a great job every day. Stay safe and stay okay.
Oh, my goodness. They do a great job every day, Big C. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars also all around the world. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear, welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic. He'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be looking at a still picture. Big C, man, everybody's pausing. I even hear the political pundits saying, everybody just pause, just relax. Big C told us to pause, so everybody pause. But I will never pause on the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, we give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number because we lose some 24 veterans every day in this country to suicide. A horrific disease, Charlton, that really goes unnoticed by the mainstream. But our veterans done a wonderful job in serving this country, and this country has not served them equally when they've come back home and tried to assimilate in society. Our veterans are stricken with the same plights that everyone else is in life, Charlton.
Yep.
COVID-19, the political environment, homelessness, destitute from finances. But, they have succumbed to suicide at such a horrific rate that the country needs to be more aware of what's happening to our veterans. I know this is an everyday thing that happens to a lot of Americans, Charlton.
Yeah.
And people hate to discuss suicide. They think of it as an embarrassment. But if you talk about it, maybe you can prevent it. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, hoping to prevent this horrific disease from spreading even more. We want it to become more of a concerted American effort.
Yeah, and we will always do our part, Big C. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. You can definitely get our veterans some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run leader Barry Bonds. When you reach out to him, just tell him Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country to put people back to work, just like car dealers do it, McDonald's does it, watch sports teams do it. You can watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, just go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com, and you can definitely get some help. Big C, I'm telling you, man, I was stuck. I'm thinking, I stayed up last night. I don't know if I stayed up last night or I stayed up this morning. I went to bed I want to say about 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm really, since I was in college, just kind of glued into the political scene. It's always been fascinating to me, even when I was watching Jesse Jackson run back in the day. And so last night I went to bed really late at night or early in the morning, however you call it. Got up about 6 o'clock this morning. So I'm a little bit lightheaded, but I'm not lightheaded from libations, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's an intriguing thing when you look at the political process in America and what happens and what does not happen, Charlton. But it all weighs out in the end once they get through counting the votes.
Yeah, they got to count the votes. I mean, sometimes, no matter who people are voting for, I made my intentions very clear. There's no equivocation. I'm voting for decency. I voted to get President Joe Biden, who I believe would be the 46th president in the United States of America, according to the polls right now. He's ahead. You know, they got to still figure out what's happening in court, but he has more votes, and also he's won the popular vote as well as the electoral college. But POTUS is like that snake in the grass. You ever cut grass and you come across a snake that just slithering around? Dixie, your thoughts?
Well, this is a guy who has spent his life trying to sue people, figuring that he could go through the court system and that he could out-finance anybody, Charles. But this is a different horse that he's dealing with.
Yeah.
This is the political system of the United States. And, you know, you can file frivolous lawsuits in civil court, Charles.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to the realization that you're suing states
yeah.
who've been properly operating under the
yeah.
law for
yeah.
decades, you don't stand a chance.
Yeah, that's funny. When you can sue a neighbor sometime, a neighbor does something to your property and you ask them to fix it. They don't fix it, so you go to Judge Wapner, and Judge Wapner will decide. But POTUS tries to sue the whole state when people try to vote. Does that make any sense, Dixie?
Well, he's suing some states to wanting them to stop counting. He's suing for other states to recount. And so, you know what I mean? He's confused with what stupidity is.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I'm telling you. I love politics. I love sports and politics. The 2020 vote has been the biggest vote in the history of the United States. In the universe, according to the United States PCC. It's amazing. Over 150 million Americans will have voted by the time this is counted. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they bring a lot of class to the Oval Office. We still got to get the final count. I'm not trying to raise the hand before you cross the goal line, but it's all there. The writing's on the wall. The only thing that I see is, you told me this a long time ago, because you hang out with a lot of guys that look like him. And when someone says something to you, they're really talking about themselves. He said this would be the most crooked election. And that good old boy came out last night. And he said that he was winning, that he had won. I guess he doesn't watch TV, he's on Twitter, because he was behind when he called so that he had won the election. He thought his friends in the court system was going to screw it over for him, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that's where he's headed. He filed several lawsuits to contest the vote. And, you know, this is a country that your vote is supposed to be your voice.
Yeah.
And he is challenging that. He is saying that Americans don't have the right to speak.
Yeah, that to me is crazy. I think about the days, you know, when Dr. King was marching, and, you know, John Lewis, we lost John Lewis, Republican John Lewis. We lost a lot of people who made it possible to vote. And I know sometimes it's about race, it's about gender, it's about color, it's about political party, education, so many things involved. But I just ask any decent person, we've had a record turnout for the vote. And no matter who you voted for, imagine if the vote that they stopped from counting was yours. No matter what color you are, no matter who's in power, because the country's going to keep going on no matter who wins. But we have to get rid of that rattlesnake that tries to chew up your votes when people stood in line for 8 hours and sometimes more, and they're saying we don't want your vote to count. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they've already thrown out some 300,000 ballots, Charlton, on mail-in votes, saying that the signature was not quite a match. I mean, a lot of people's signatures change over the years.
Mine do.
But this is what racism is in America, Charlton. When you're obstructing the vote, you're trying to discredit people from voting because you don't like their political stance.
Yeah. It's amazing when you think about what some Republicans have said about what's going on. Even Mitch McConnell told John Hunter to shut up, which was a shock to me. But he realizes that that door is closing in on him too, Big C. But he said, and a lot of other Republicans said, the whole Trump presidency can be encapsulated in the past few days and weeks. It is self-dealing, denialism, dishonesty, and deflection. It is narcissism recklessness and disregard for the public good and for democracy itself. And I've had a lot of my so-called Republican friends texting me and tweeting me, especially last night, and they said I was going to eat a lot of crow, Big C. And now that they realize that POTUS is actually losing and it's going to be Joe Biden that's going to be elected president of the United States, of course they got to get through the court system. A lot of these good old boys have turned on me, Big C. They started calling me all kind of names that were not my names, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, it has to get to 270.
Yeah.
Up until it gets 270, Donald Trump is still president.
Yeah, he's still president, just like that snake is still scribbling around until the lawnmower blades get it. It's all fair in love and war. U.S. democracy, in my opinion, some people say it's about race, others say it's about politics, others say it's religion, it's culture, it's, rich versus poor. But what I really feel is kind of like a gumbo. I think U.S. democracy has defeated an autocratic attempt at the United States becoming like Russia, like Putin, in 2020. It's about the government, it's about economics, race, health, and the democratic system. I know a lot of guys just want to watch the game, but some of our brethren that I'm a little bit perturbed at times, Big C, as they're yelling about who's going to win a game, that good old boy's trying to pull the vote right from under them. And as a person of color, as a black man, to me, you can get mad. But what I love about President Obama, he doesn't call racism, he doesn't call sexism, he doesn't call any type of xenophobia. He says something that's so clear, and the majority of Americans have done it. They went out and voted, Big C. What is that about President Obama that's so cool in the eye of the storm, and he doesn't mince words, and he says vote, Big C, and people listen. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, they were going to vote long before Obama came out and spoke about that, Charlton. Like I said, this election was a referendum on racism in America. Well, when you think about the guy that's sitting in the Oval Office, when he identifies black women as being mean and nasty and animals, this is how he identifies women of color, Asian women, Hispanic women when they're in the media and they question him. He identifies them with names, Charlton, that a dog whistles. He doesn't say that to the white reporters. So this is a referendum on racism in America.
Yeah, I think it's a lot deeper than that, Big C. Race is one factor, yes, but it's about being an autocratic government compared to a democracy.
He never called Joe Biden a monster, but he called Kamala Harris a monster.
Yep.
He said she was mean and nasty. He never said that about Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the one who was running for president, not Kamala Harris, but he called women of color, and he did it multiple times at the White House, where he called women of color different names, Charlton.
Yeah.
This is a referendum on racism. He never said it to a white female reporter.
Yeah, but where I disagree with you, Big C, of course, racism's been existing since 1619. That's not new to anybody. But when you realize if he had gotten the majority white vote, he would have won in a landslide, but he did not. So whether he's a racist, we know that. But what I see happening in the electoral vote, especially the electoral college, the swing states, that's mostly in white populated areas. And when I told you this, when he had the kids, those white kids, and he sicked the military on them, and vicious dogs and ominous weapons and tear gas, and he roughed them up at the White House. And those white parents, they saw their kids being, beaten up and brutalized by a white man. He lost their vote then. That has nothing to do with race. That's about them seeing.
But do you remember why those white kids were out there talking?
Yeah, but you got to understand they've always been out there.
Answer that question. Do you remember why they were out there?
No,
what were they stumping for?
Let me answer you. You answer the question because I have a point I want to make.
Answer the question.
Well, I was making.
They were out there stumping for Black Lives Matter. I know you refuse to say that, but that's what they were stumping for. And because they were stumping for Black Lives Matter, Trump identified Black Lives Matter as a terrorist group. He was being a racist towards black people. So what those white kids were out there stumping against, he identified them as being black, as sympathizers. That's all he looked at from a racial perspective.
Well, I disagree with you, but you have a right to your opinion. Because if you're going to tell me the swing states are full of white people who interact with black people, that's when you're wrong. He won in the swing states. The most of the black populations close to the oceans, Big C, in the big cities. That's why the major votes that came in, they came from big cities, not from the rural counties. But the swing states run through those rural counties. I'm telling you, it had nothing to do with the race for those white kids, those white people that voted. He did get 55% of the white female vote, but the white Americans that voted him out of office, they don't even live around black Americans. And that's just You can look at the swing states, but everybody has their own opinion. But the power of the black voters. I know you're never going to hear this on any other sports program because they're still yelling about, I can't believe that some athletes bigger and stronger and faster. We'll do that too. But my brain has two sides. The power of the black vote in the United States of America. More than athletes using their power for more than sports, like the shut up and dribble comments from Laura Ingraham. The TV and radio brethren, they're so quiet like a mouse that you always talk about down in the church. Except for Big C Sports. I'm going to take a little time to pat myself on the back, and you too. We don't have to agree on anything, and I think that's good for democracy and a podcast. But what I will say, especially to some of my white brethren that said, man, you guys talk too much politics. They can't tell me that what we have talked about is not real, is manifesting in front of our own eyes, that black people will decide the election of 2020, and it's been that way for a long time. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, America will decide the election in 2020. It's an American agenda. It's an American agenda, and when I talk about racism in America, everybody's not racist. There are many people that are racist, but there's also many people that appall at racism. When we've seen the Voting Rights Act, when the people were marching, all those people were not black, Charlton.
Right.
Every civic movement that has been done by minorities in America, it hasn't just been them by themselves. They've been joined by a plethora of other different nationalities. And that's what makes America America.
Yeah.
But you still have that racism on the other half.
That's fine. Racism started in 1619. That's nothing new to anybody. But what has changed is more and more people are denouncing it. And they're denouncing it with the vote. They're denouncing it with the power of the pen and the ballot box. No matter what goes on, our country needs some healing. I think we got to heal this country. But the truth will set you free. And I'm so proud of especially what we've done on the Big C Sports podcast, because we're not dumb guys. And as you know, this is true what I'm going to say. Oftentimes, as men of color, people who give us, we're the last hired and the first to be fired until you create your own platform. There's no way that if we had to go ask somebody, could we use our own thoughts to elucidate the subject, would they allow us to do it? So I really appreciate being bold, being prescient, and then being accurate, because we're speaking about things that happen after we talk about it. And to me, I want to take some credit for that, especially with all the hate that I face personally from good old boys that said, man, shut up about the politics. I tell them, shut up, listen, and Big C, your thoughts.
Well, I'm happy for anybody who's listening. I mean, the thing about it is there's multiple platforms out there. The platform that we possess is our thoughts.
Yeah.
Yours is yours, mine are mine. And we try to bring them together.
Yeah.
So we can't appease everybody. We can only appease the ones who want to be appeased.
Yeah, that's true. And it's nice when they have, in the political world, they're talking about the sport. We talk about the sports universe, but I'm hearing the political universe for the first time in my life. So I appreciate all of our media brethren that realize we're not two dumb jocks. And as much as that may make some people upset, that's fine. So sports and politics, before we cover a little bit of sports, Big C. How did Big C Sports predict the 46th presidential U.S. race of the 2020 election the past 4 years? Guys like Rush Limbaugh, I'm talking to sponsorship. Rush Limbaugh, who's a bigot, he was wrong. Tucker Carlson, he's a bigot on Fox News. He was wrong. Armstrong Williams, he's a bigot. He's black, and he was wrong. And they're paid tens of millions of dollars. Sponsors, listen to this, and they're wrong. I just asked you, put what Big C Sports have talked about, whether it's sports or politics, and realize where you're putting your money, because you can't say we haven't been covering this for the last 4 years and we've been on the right side of history, and that's my opinion. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, those people are what they are. They've been established at that, and that following it, what they have is not going to go anywhere, because those are the ones who are bigots that are listening to the bigots, and they believe in them.
Yeah, it's all fair and love and war. Everybody has a right to whatever they want, but I really appreciate the way the people have turned out. Now I want to focus on a little bit of college football, Big C. Man, if they can play games. But I'm going to start out with Big C's bottom 10 so that the Republican Party can relate, if that makes sense to your Fox News. The bottom 10 college football team, looking a little bit blue. Baylor, they're from a good old boy state down in Texas. They're 1-3 on the season. Give me your thoughts on them making Big C's bottom top 10, if that makes sense to you.
You know, Charlton, that's a list that nobody wants to be on, but
Right.
you have to be on it at some point, you know, when you're not winning. I mean, college football has been a struggle this year to get games in, period. But when you're 1-3 and there's no sunshine on the other side, things get a little blue for you.
Who sang that song? Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. I think that might be Melania's Trump favorite song coming up soon. Number 9 on Big C's bottom top 10 is Syracuse. Syracuse is from the state of New York. How are they 1-6, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I guess when you're the same color as the president, Charlton, you'll be that way. So the Orange Men have struggled this year. You know, Dino Favors has not been able to get things jump-started up there in the Carrier Dome, and the Orange Men are bringing up the bottom of the ACC.
Yep.
So you say the Orange Man, he might be leaving the White House.
You know, he's packing up in an orange U-Haul, if that makes sense to you, Big C. And then there's another program from the South. It's called Vanderbilt University. They're a very good academic school, but they're 0-4 on the football field, Big C. Your thoughts?
I mean, in the classroom, they're winning everything, Chuck, but on the football field, they have not been able to put together a game plan. And the Vanderbilt Commodores, you know, they've struggled, Charlton, and this season hasn't been a good one for them.
Yeah, they're not doing that well, but they are graduating, so that's good. Number 7 on Big C's bottom top 10 is FIAU. That's Florida International. I believe they're 0-3-4, Big C. Your thoughts?
0-3-4. I mean, how do you get to those types of numbers in college football? That means you haven't won a game.
Yeah.
You lost 3 of them, and you've had 4 of them canceled or delayed, Charlton. So they may not win one at all this year.
That sounds like somebody on a date site. Nobody shows up. It's all fair and love or war. Texas is 1-7. They come in at number 5 on Big C's upside down bottom 10. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, 1-5. I mean, when we look at this college football season, Charlton, it's been one of those that is for the decades. I mean, you almost just want to throw it all in a time capsule and say, let's come out on the other side of 2021 and see what happens. But when you got Texas State looking at that situation, Charlton, 1 win. I mean, all those kids, and you feel for them because they go out every week wanting to win a game. Yeah,
they've been told that
5 times they come up in.
And I'm mixing them in with the University of Southern Florida. They're 1-5. Texas State's 1-7. I kind of put them tight, but I got to give 1 of 5 of the numbers and 1 of the number 6. Get upside down. South Florida, at least they have the right part geography, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, geography, you know, they're down in the south. So it's still warm. They're not freezing yet.
They're not freezing yet. It's all fair in love and war. I want to go to the Midwest, Kansas. That's Gale Sayers territory at Big C. I think they call them the Comet, the Kansas Comet. But they're not doing too well right now. They're 0-6, and they're in the number 4 spot in Big C's upside down top 10 or bottom 10. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you're unemployed as a former head coach, you got to be careful of the job you take.
Yeah.
And Les Miles, I think he's, you know, doing his wish list right now, wishing that he hadn't taken the job at Kansas. Not only has he not won a game this year, Charlton, but he's also come down with COVID-19.
Yeah, and I wish him well with the COVID-19, but I know he's cashed every one of those checks. It's all fair and love and war. I want to come in at number 3 for Big C's NFL bottom 10, and that would be UNLV. They're 0-2, but they're still the Running Rebels are 0-2. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, this is not the Running Rebels from the early '90s with Jerry Tarkanian.
No,
which used to be the University of no losses, just victories and stuff. And this is the opposite with UNLV. You know, they were hoping to play there in the Reliant Stadium there that the Raiders had built there in downtown Las Vegas, Charlton. But I don't think they're going to let them through the door if they can't win a game.
They just lost a game to Nevada just over the weekend, so Nevada gets, I guess they play for some type of a cannonball, so that cannonball is going to get up north to Reno. So congratulations in the Silver State Bowl. Big C, number 2 in Big C's college football bottom top 10 is Southern Mississippi. They're 1-5 on the season. Your thoughts?
You know, I guess they're looking for a vowel, Charlton, when you're trying to spell Mississippi. You can't find a vowel, you can't find a win. You know, this is a team that has gone through 2 head coaches already this year, Charlton. They stumbled and had a game canceled from COVID-19, but this is a hard luck team down in Mississippi. Yeah,
they got a good thing called a mason jar. They won't be too feeling hard lucky for much longer. Number 1, drum roll please. Big C's college football bottom top 10. Number 1 ranked in the universe. University of Louisiana Monroe. They're 0-7. Big C, your thoughts?
0-7
Yep.
down in Louisiana.
Yep.
Well, they've had 7 hurricanes, Charlton, so I guess they're on track. If
Yeah.
they win a game, maybe the Hurricanes will stop down in Louisiana.
Yeah, we hope the hurricane will stop, but we know that won't happen. So that's Big C's college football upside down bottom 10. It's all fair in love and war. I want to make sure that players know that we appreciate you're out there trying to make these guys rich and you're not getting anything. But we hope you stay healthy, and that's real talk. It's all fair and love and war. I want to look at some more world of college football. The Pac-12, my goodness, the Pac-12 begins its quest to make the college football playoffs in a shortened season. And for a conference that has dealt with the national relevancy problem in the college football playoffs era, added levels to that equation, a delayed start, no fans in the stands, fewer games, opt-outs of key players, make this season more challenging, even more so than in recent years. The Pac-12 needs more marquee teams to bring the eyeballs to the conference. Big C, your thoughts?
And they're going to be struggling, Charlton. We've seen every conference has been hit with COVID-19, which is delayed or canceled.
Yeah.
Games. And when you're in a shortened season, I think the Pac-12 has 6 games on the slate.
Yep.
They can't afford to miss any games. I mean, everybody's talking about the college football playoffs already, and the Pac-12 is yet to kick a football off. So they're well behind. And we know how this pandemic is spreading, Charlton, and you said the opt-out of key players in the conference. There's only a couple teams in the Pac-12 that people really recognize, and that's going to be the University of Oregon and the University of Southern California. Those teams, if they lose a game, Charlton, the Pac-12 is going to be like the Big 12. They're totally out of the playoff picture.
Yeah, them good old boys down at Arizona State. You don't want to bargain with a devil. Donald Trump understands what that means. He might take you to court. I think the Pac-12 will be fine this year. Really, it's just a matter of getting the publicity out there, and they'll do their best. But I wanna bring up, you know how people say, at least out here on the West Coast, don't talk sports and politics. A lot of those guys are off the air, if that makes sense to you. But former college football coach Tommy Tuberville, I think he wins Alabama's Republican Senate seat, Big C. He was also a coach in college football, Big C. Your thoughts?
He was. Tommy Tuberville last night won the Senate seat for the Republicans in the state of Alabama, Charlton. He's coached at 4 major universities in college football. He's most notable coaching at not Alabama, but Auburn. Yeah. But Tommy Tuberville upset Doug Jones last night for the Alabama Republican Senate seat. Yeah,
there's a lot of shenanigans going on down there when it comes to who gets the vote. He spent 21 seasons as a college football coach with 4 programs. He coached at Ole Miss in 1995 to 1998 before spending nearly a decade at Auburn from 99 to 2008. And then he actually had a team, I think the last team at Auburn that invited USC, and USC beat them 23-0 down at Jordan-Hare Stadium, and they said, we don't want to play Pete Carroll's team anymore. And that's when they started the vote against the Pac-12, in my opinion. The Tigers went undefeated en route to an SEC title in 2004, but they lost to USC 23-0, and they finished number 2 in the country. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, he had a pretty successful run as a head coach. You spend 20 years doing anything, Charlton, is pretty successful, and now he wants to throw his hat into that political arena and see what type of run he can have there.
Man, what do you think, before we come up on the Big C pause, what's more difficult? If, as a Southerner, and I really do mean this, what's more difficult to win? Is it winning the SEC or winning a political race if you don't have some old ties, if that makes sense to you? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he has the ties, the notoriety from being a football coach at the University of Auburn. So that catapulted him as far as notoriety in that state.
Yeah, it really helps a lot. I know they have some things going on in the Carolinas where millions of dollars cannot beat them good old boys in their affinity for each other. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, and even the sports pundits and the news pundits are talking about taking the pause. We'll take the pause. We'll be right back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. There's so many apps. Just take the phone in your hand, maybe the same phone that you use to get registered for the vote, and just say Big C Sports Podcast. You'll see the apps pop up, and very many apps will pop up. Just download it on your phone, and you can hear Big C's thoughts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. Big C, also the world of college football, and I love it, and I know the country loves it too. When you think about college football and politics, you have former Ohio State Buckeyes and Indianapolis Colts wide receiver Anthony Gonzalez. He wins re-election. He also prepped at Cleveland St. Ignatius High School back in the day in Ohio. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is a guy who has had into the arena. We've had several former NFL players that have gotten into politics. Steve Largent did it out there in the state of Washington.
Yeah.
And here's Gonzalez winning a second term, in his Senate seat in his district, Charlton, which is a marvelous feat. It shows the intelligence of athletes.
Yeah, it really does. He's a Republican who won re-election in the U.S. House of Representatives, Ohio's 16th Congressional District. Also, Lem Swann, who went to Sarah High School in San Mateo, along with Tom Brady and Barry Bonds, even though they went at different years. He ended up going to USC, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he also put his ears in the world of politics as well as sports broadcasting. So I love when athletes don't just shut up and dribble. They're more than just a person that's going to put on a uniform. They actually do it with a brain, and so congratulations to Gonzalez and your win in Ohio last night. College football, Big C. Big C, I don't know what a Ute is, but I know what a Buckeye is. But the Utah Utes, they give football coach Kyle Whittingham a 4-year contract extension for being blown out in the Pac-12 championship by Oregon and then losing the bowl game to Texas. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, they want to make sure that they sure up Kyle Whittingham, for the next 5 years. So that contract will extend through 2027. He took over at Utah after Urban Meyer left, and he's kept that winning tradition going. Yeah,
it's tough to win up in Utah. I guess the altitude's a little bit high, but they've done a good job with that program over the years. I remember they used to be a part of the WAC, the conference, Western Athletic Conference. Then they joined the Pac-12 in their expansion along with Colorado. But hey, when someone gives you an extension for losing your last 2 games of the year, is that politics, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, he's winning the Pac-12 conference, Charlton. So when you think about him being the winningest coach last year in the Pac-12 conference, other than losing the conference championship, maybe USC might want to look at giving him higher.
They might want to believe. You know what? They may want to look at bringing him in, but it's all fair and level war, and he's done a good job with the youth. Big C, when you think about it, he signed his contract extension through 2027, adding 4 years to his current deal, and the school announced that Wednesday. I think in this climate of COVID, it's great for him to sign that contract right now, but with the way things are going in college football, I know we're going to get through this hurdle sometime. Just congratulations to him. I don't know if it's the best thing for Utah, but sometimes you just got to go with someone who's been there helping you win. The third longest tenured FBS coach in the country, Whittingham has been at his current role since taking over for Urban Meyer, as you mentioned, in 2004. He was named the Pac-12 Coach of the Year and the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year last season when he got the Utes to a Pac-12 championship game. It was a loss to Utah, to Oregon, but they did get there, Big C. Your thoughts?
They did get there, and I believe they were undefeated when they got to that, Pac-12 championship game. So when you think about the success that he's had there at the University of Utah, and that's one of the big problems with the Pac-12 as it exists. When you got the best regular season team in the conference in the state of Utah, not even there on the West Coast.
Yeah.
That's the reason why you lack in national recognition.
Yeah, they did lose a game at the Coliseum to the USC Trojans, so I doubt if they'll be calling them trying to sign a contract over Clay Helton, but it is all fair in love and war. I want to touch on a few things. Again, very into the election last night, and I just love seeing what people think about America is either good or bad. But one thing they cannot refute is the fact that we all have the right to exercise our vote. There's some shenanigans where some good old boys like Trump will try to go to court to sue so that the black vote's not counted, because he's suing in heavy Democratic cities, Big C, but he's also suing states too. But isn't that something? And I'm going to ask you this question because I think it's deeper than racism. For a white person to vote for a man who's going to sue to keep your kids from voting, because that's what happens in an autocratic government. And that's why he's packed the courts, Big C, with those federal judges. And when you have the electorate last night say no, what does it take? I mean, I'm going to ask you, I'm very honest, and maybe you don't know the answer. But at what point do our white brethren realize you're voting for a guy that's going to take away your own children and grandchildren's right to vote? Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, you know, when you look at the society and what you talked about autocratic, you got to look at the platform that Trump ran on. We're going to take our country back. When did America leave? When did America not be America?
Yeah.
What he was doing was using that bullhorn, Charlton, to call the racists out in America. That we want to take things back 60 years when people of color had no options in this country, when you could do and treat them however you wanted to. That's what's resonating with the people who follow him, Charlton, is that they want separatism in America. They want one dominant society in America. Those are the people who follow him, and they will follow him off a cliff like rats with a pied pipe. That's what he brings that out.
Yeah.
And so when you listen to what he says, when you look at the hand signals that he's making all the time when he's speaking, he's calling out to those people in that secret society that did not have to be secret any longer while he was president. He spoke to them. He tweeted to them, Charlton. He retweeted their videos. And so he made those people feel comfortable again in America.
Yeah, well, it's a great country that we live in, but just like day and night, you know, some people say we got to be either right or left. Well, God made people with 2 feet, and it's hard to get around if you're just hopping around on 1 foot, whether it's your right foot or your left foot. It takes 2, and that's what makes it easier to walk, and I think it's going to be great for politics also. We're still looking at the House and the Senate. I think that's going to be a balance out in power also, but it's all fair and love and war. You know, we talk about college football, Big C, and we talk about the power of voting. And I know every parent, no matter what it is with COVID-19, we know POTUS lied. There's over 230,000 Americans that have lost their lives because he lied. He just could have told the truth. And my heart bleeds when I bring this up. There was a college student, and she passed away in her dorm. She passed away from COVID-19, Big C. It was a contributing factor. She had a pulmonary embolus, and she's a 20-year-old girl, and she went to college at Indiana, and they found her in her dorm room, Big C. She was at Grace College, an evangelical Christian school, in Winona Lake, about 40 miles northwest of Fort Wayne. Now, as painful as it is to mention that, isn't it something, Big C, that there's so many people saying going back to school is safe, and we're going to be okay, and POTUS said, oh, it doesn't affect young kids. What will he say to the parents of that young woman that passed away from COVID, Big C? Your thoughts?
Charlton, he doesn't care. There have been dozens of kids that have passed away in the state that I live in from COVID-19, long before this young lady's unfortunate passing. But the president doesn't give a damn. He's never said anything empathetic towards anybody who has lost a loved one to COVID-19. This has all been about finances and keeping him in power, Charlton.
Yeah, it's amazing how he came out last night and he said, oh, this is a setup. This is rigged. This is totally rigged. And then he went to court to try to sue Americans from voting, and he never showed that much energy to help solve COVID-19. And so, as you said, some people will fall him off a cliff, and that's a very steep drop on that cliff. But again, we are America. People have a right to agree and disagree. It's all fair and love and war. I want to ask you a little bit about this world of Major League Baseball, and then I want to get into some football and finish out with some politics too. I'm really excited that America is a country where 1619, over 400 years ago, Africans were brought from the African continent and other parts of across the Atlantic into the United States and landed in Virginia and created the most horrific form of slavery ever existing in the world, even though it's existed all over the world. And to have the 2020 election decided by the people who came over in chains, to me that's very powerful, because the way the black vote swings, the country swings. People just got to know that and not just watch football and basketball and baseball all day. But it is all fair and love and war. Each one teach one. Major League Baseball 2020 Gold Glove winners, Big C. You may not agree with my opinion, but you're from the South, I'm from the West. We like to count all of our votes out here on the West Coast, Big C. I know how you good boys get down. But I'm going to go in the American League and the National League. Roberto Perez for the Cleveland Indians and Tucker Bernhardt for the Cincinnati Reds. First base, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's always a critical position on the team, Charlton, because that's where the most outs are made. And so that first baseman has to be very active. Got to swing a big glove out there, Charlton. And those two players are deserving of that great award.
Yeah, they're doing a great job, Big C. Evan White for the Mariners and Anthony Rizzo for the Cubs, second baseman, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you look at Rizzo, you know, and the Cubs, you think about two teams there, Charlton, in that one city, that they got the best second basemen in all of baseball. And that's the key to turning double plays right there.
Yeah, and turning double plays, you got to have that. I also want to bring up Cesar Hernandez for the Cleveland Indians, and then Colton Wong for the Cardinals, Big C, St. Louis Cardinals. Your thoughts?
Well, the Midwest, when you're looking at baseball, Charlton, those Midwesterners, you know, getting those gold gloves. I mean, this is the highest accolade that a field player can get in baseball.
Yeah.
And to be able to achieve that gold glove and put that up on the mantle of all the other awards you have, that's the highest recognition in Major League Baseball for an individual.
It really is. Trying to catch a baseball is just about the size of your hand, but they have good hand-eye coordination. Also, Big C, J.P. Crawford for the Seattle Mariners and Javier Baez for the Chicago Cubs. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, Javier Baez is a magician, Charlton, in the field and at the plate.
Yeah.
So him winning this award, you know, just puts the icing on the cake.
Yeah, icing on the cake. There might be a lot of cake. And speaking of cake, we should help him get out the Big C burger. It's a really tasty burger. It comes with exotic meats, and it might be on the menu at the White House as things change. Coming up, Big C. It's all fair in love and war. I want to bring up Isaiah Kenner Falefa for the Rangers, and then Nolan Ariano for the Rockies. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, when I think about Ariano for the Rockies, you know, he's, to me, the best third baseman in all of baseball.
He's
whether
good.
It's at the plate, whether it's in the field. And to be able to win this award again, he's won it several times, Charlton. But this is just another one.
Yeah, just another one. Big C. Also, Alex Gordon for the Kansas City Royals, and then Tyler O'Neill for the St. Louis Cardinals. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Tyler O'Neill is one of those young stars, Charlton, that's going to be in this position for many years to come. It's always great to see the young players move into Major League Baseball and be able to capture these prestigious awards.
Yeah, and especially when baseball's over, you realize how good football is. But baseball did this thing. They did the best they could this year. Lewis Robert from the White Sox, and then Trent Grisham for the San Diego Padres. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about the run that the Padres had this year, Charlton, with Grisham, you know, he was one of the key players in getting them into the playoffs and getting that long run that they had. They're going to be an up-and-coming team there in the West.
Yeah, they will be very good, Big C. And I want to go to right field. Joey Gallo for the Texas Rangers. And then my favorite player, Mookie Betts for the defending world champion Los Angeles Dodgers. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you look at Mookie Betts, Charlton, this is his fifth consecutive Gold Glove.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who started out as a second baseman, and now he's moved to right field, Charlton, and continued picking up Golden Gloves.
Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. What were the Red Sox thinking when they let him go? He seems to follow success, or maybe success follows him. And then there's pitcher Griffin Canning for the Los Angeles Angels, and then Max Fried for the Atlanta Braves is very solid. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you look at the Braves and the run that they had into the playoffs, making it to the NL Finals, Charlton, losing out to the Dodgers, Freeze did a great job for the Braves. And this is a team that's been back-to-back deep into the National League playoffs.
Yeah, congratulations to everybody. You know, you put on the glove, it only goes on one hand. Unlike POTUS, you can't put it on both hands, if that makes sense to you. Trying to ask for the states where he thought he was ahead to keep counting the votes, but where he said he was behind to end the vote in the court. People stood in line not to have their votes non-counted, Big C. It's all fair in love and war. Speaking of what's also fair, Big C, I want to look at the world of the NFL. You know, the 49ers, they've closed facilities because of COVID-19 tests. They have a game coming up with the Green Bay Packers tomorrow, so I don't know if that's going to go through. They're still scheduled to play in Santa Clara County, and you know, you can't stop an airplane in midair and turn it around, but we'll see what happens with the 49ers in the Packers game tomorrow because of positive COVID-19 test with the San Francisco 49ers. When you think about it, Big C, you can take a player and you can say you're on COVID-19 protocol, and then they won't let them play. But at some point in time, I think for the 49ers in Green Bay, would they postpone this game, or will they just close their eyes and pretend it didn't happen, Big C? Your thoughts?
No, this game is not going to be postponed. The NFL says that this game is going to be played. The NFL right now is in a crux because they can't afford to be delaying games. They're talking about expanding the playoffs, and if they cancel games at this juncture of the season, Charlton, where teams have already had their byes, it's hard to replace them. Yeah,
Kendrick Bourne is the receiver for the San Francisco 49ers that tests positive for COVID, so they put him on protocol. And I'm telling you, Big C, iceberg straight ahead, like the great movie Titanic. They'll push things to the side as much as possible. And just like POTUS, sometimes things end up in the court, especially when you're wrong and people sue you. Another big name NFL player, Big C, in Detroit. Biden won Michigan. And then you look at the Detroit, their prodigal football son, and Matt Stafford. He's placed on COVID-19 protocol also, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is what's going to occur the rest of the season in the NFL. As the weather has gotten colder and players are more inside as well as the general public and closer together, Charlton, this is about to spread at a horrific rate throughout the league.
Yeah.
You saw what happened in Wisconsin where they had to cancel the game with the college football team. I was surprised that Green Bay has only had 2 players tested positive this week.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you're surprised because they hide what would surprise you, if that makes sense to you. Big C, Rocky Mountain High, not just John Dilver, but the Denver Broncos. They canceled practice today after player was put on COVID-19 protocol, and so he was on the practice squad. But last I checked, the practice squad players are also around the starters, Big C, if that makes sense to you. Your thoughts?
Well, as you look at the Denver Broncos period, Charlton, they've had a breakout of COVID-19 that started last week. John Elway tested positive. The CEO of the Broncos tested positive.
Really?
And now it's come down to players. Those practice squad players, Charlton, practice with the regular roster. So who knows what's going to happen in Denver because it's been so cold.
Yeah, it's been so cold. And we were just talking yesterday, Big C, about the NFL expanding with the playoffs. I mean, it's weird when a house is burning, most people get out. But when the NFL's house is burning, and we just have a fatality out of a young lady and a college student in Indiana, found her in her dorm, only 20 years old, and she doesn't even play football. But COVID-19 brought her life to an end, even though Donald Trump said it's not real. We won't have to listen to him much longer. But it's a shame how the NFL sees the evidence. And like that snake in the grass that you talked about until it gets hit by the lawnmower blades, it just slivers around, Big C, hoping it won't be seen. And I think the NFL is trying to do the same thing. So if John Elway tests positive, Nick Saban tested positive. They said it was a false positive for the Alabama coach. But we just never know because people are going to say what they got to say. But there was 8 positive COVID-19 tests for players and personnel. And that's what we know of. This is not people who haven't been we haven't been warned about, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you can spend every show talking about COVID-19. There's going to be positive cases every day. When America reached 100,000 positive cases yesterday, no one spoke about it because everyone was distracted because of the election.
Yeah.
But America reached 100,000 positive COVID cases yesterday.
Wow.
So this means that it's been on the rise. For the past 2 weeks, the lowest number in America, Charlton, has been 85,000 in one day.
Wow.
So this is an everyday thing.
Yeah.
America's become numb to it to a degree because they hear about it so much, but it's not going away regardless of who's in the White House.
Yeah, I just hope that people can stay healthy. Isn't it amazing? The Republicans trying to cancel health care. 100,000 people test positive yesterday, COVID-19, and he still got 55% of the white women vote. I guess some people don't mind when you grab their daughters by their private parts as long as you're old and white. It's all kind of crazy, but that's why people vote, Big C. In NFL football, Houston Texans, J.J. Watt said he's not looking to rebuild with the Texans when he sees his brother doing his thing for the Steelers. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I don't know how much J.J. Watt got left in the tank. He hasn't completed the season in the last 4 years. He's been beset by a lot of injuries.
Yeah, he really has. But you know what? Like anything in life, if you want something, you got to ask for it. You have not because you ask not. It's all fair and level war. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Antonio Brown. He's a good receiver. Is he happy for another chance to play better and to act better, Big C? It's not about talent with him. It's about, is he willing to do what it takes to stop doing shenanigans and go out and get the money? He cost himself $29 million by screwing up with the Raiders, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if he wants to play football, play football. If he wants to be stupid, keep getting cut.
Yeah, stupid is as stupid does. But some things are not so stupid. San Francisco 49ers kind of snake bitten. I think they have like 8 starters that are out, Big C, injured. And now quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is getting a second opinion for a season-ending ankle surgery. And he got hurt again in the game against Seattle, up in Seattle, Big C. But he's getting multiple opinions, deciding what he's going to do with the ankle. But let me ask you, as an athlete, at some point in time, if you got to go in for a surgery, are you focused more on your health, or are you focused on how can I just, put it off as long as possible and play the game, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, with the way modern technology is with medicine and surgery, Charlton, you can put it off as long as possible. There's a magic thing called a needle that will, basically make it hurt no more. And you can go out there and play, and many athletes do that all the time.
Yeah,
but it's up to Jimmy Garoppolo, whether he wants to play or not, or get the surgery.
Yeah, so you said there's a needle and it's called hurt no more? Is that what you said, Big C? Your thoughts?
Yeah, but it didn't do that with Tyrod Taylor. It hurt him a little worse when they punctured the lung trying to give it to him.
Yeah, it's amazing. Medical science can do a lot of things. And I just hope that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be okay with his health. I know they gave him a lot of money, but money's important. He has a lot of money. He'll be okay no matter what happens to him. I want to get your thoughts, Big C, on some more things in the NFL. We're now halfway through the NFL season. It seems like they just kicked off last week. So here's the entire mid-season award breakdown. Big C's thoughts. You don't have to agree. Just some thoughts. Throw them out there and get your opinion about it. Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. They're still looking like they're on the collision course for Super Bowl 55. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no one has unseated them yet. They had that one hiccup against the Raiders. But when you got Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, Charlton, you'll always be favorite.
Always be a favorite, and we'll see what happens. That steel curtain looking pretty strong. We'll see what happens if they have a collision course, Big C. Also, when you think about the Super Bowl MVP, Patrick Mahomes, he hasn't done anything to disappoint, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, if they get back to the Super Bowl, Charlton, he'll most likely once again be the MVP of the game, and that would be a repeat.
Yeah, it would be a repeat. But there's a good boy up north, Big C, in the Northwest. And he likes to cook up a lot of solutions to stop Patrick Mahomes from putting more ketchup in his soup, Big C. His name is Russell Wilson as an MVP candidate. I know we're at the halfway part of the season, but he's playing as well as anybody, Big C. Your thoughts?
He is, Charlton. But if they get to the Super Bowl and they're facing the Kansas City Chiefs, let's look at it from the wild animal scenario. You don't want to get in a pissing contest with a skunk. And I'm going to call Patrick Mahomes the skunk. I think that he can outthrow anybody.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd rather play with some video games other than having that kind of bravado against a skunk, Big C. It's all fair and level war. But you know what? Joe Biden knows what to do with the skunk. You just kick him out of the room and fumigate the place, if that makes sense to you. And when you think about it, a guy... Offensive player of the year, Patrick Mahomes, obviously. Defensive player of the year. This guy was kicked out of half the season last year because he was trying to hit another player with his helmet. Provoked or not, he did the wrong thing, but Myles Garrett's looking pretty solid, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at what Myles Garrett has done, he's been a total disruptor this year with the Cleveland Browns defense. He's one of the top sackers in the NFL. He's putting pressure on the quarterback consistently, and he's holding down his side of the defensive line. So. Yeah,
he's doing a good job. Really good to see him atone for what he did that was wrong. He understood that. Coach of the year, Mike Tomlin for the Pittsburgh Steel Curtain Part 2 Steelers. Big C, you're buying that. Your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Mike Tomlin's the only undefeated coach in the NFL. And you look at what he did with the team he had last year, Charlton. They had 8 wins when they scored 10 or less points.
Wow.
Now that they're scoring points this year, Charlton, they're undefeated.
Yeah, I really like the way he's He's just a football coach, and he's very smart and appreciate how he's straightforward with his players. Comeback player of the year. I was praying that this guy would not get hurt again. Alex Smith, talk about medical doctors and how science and medicine work together. He has to be comeback player of the year, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I like Alex Smith's story, but, I'm not so sure it's not Ben Roethlisberger. His team is undefeated under Mike Thomas, and he missed last season with that bad elbow.
Yeah.
He had to have it repaired. So, they're both great stories, but right now, Ben is head and shoulders above in my book.
Offensive Rookie of the Year, Joe Burrow, or there could be a kid that plays for the L.A. Chargers if they could just win a game, and Justin Herbert. Big C, your thoughts?
I like the nod with Joe Burrow, Dalton. When you look at Justin Herbert, he's giving up all these double-digit leads in the last 4 games. Joe Burrow has not done that. Joe Burrow has hung in there, and look at what he did last week with 4 backup offensive linemen.
Yeah, well, it's all fair and love and war. I'm going to bring it to another player, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Antoine Winfield Jr. or Chase Young. Big C, your thoughts?
I like Antoine Winfield Jr. Of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is the kid that's a chip off the old block. His dad played for 12 years with the Minnesota Vikings. He's a rookie out of the University of Minnesota, second-round draft pick of the Buccaneers, and he's been better than advertised in that defense.
Yeah, they've all done well halfway through the NFL season. Big C's thoughts and the mid-season awards breakdown. I wish them all the best. Big C, in the final few minutes, the NBA Players Association, they're progressing toward an agreement on, I think, December 22nd. They were talking about start planning a formal vote on Thursday if they can get some NBA basketball back before Christmas. Big C, your thoughts?
Basketball this year is going to be interesting, Charlton. We're still stuck in COVID-19. And how would they do this, Charlton? Would they put it back in a bubble, or would they try to play in their own arena? This is a perplexing situation with them.
Yeah, it really is perplexing. So what would you do? Because we only have, in football, you only have so many dome stadiums. If they talk about a bubble for football, I believe if you have the dome, we got in Los Angeles, we have a dome. Arizona Cardinals have a dome. Houston Texans, Dallas Cowboys have a dome. Indianapolis has a dome. Minnesota has a dome. And if unless my math is wrong, I think those are the only dome. Actually, the Atlanta Falcons have a dome down south also.
Detroit, New Orleans.
Yeah,
there's domes
New Orleans.
all over the United States.
Yes.
There's more than enough domes to create bubbles for the NFL. But when you look at the NBA and the mass travel that they have to go through, you're talking about you go on a seven-game road trip, Charlton, where you don't come home without playing 7 games in different cities. So this creates a logistic problem for the NBA and their players. And what do? Do you play without fans again? Do you let minimal fans into the arena? There's a lot of questions to be asked about this upcoming NBA season.
Yeah.
Not only that, you got the NHL you got to look at on the same condition. And if the NBA takes this vote, will teams be allowed to play in Canada, or will Canada say, no, the Raptors have to come down to the U.S. and play their season? You know, with hockey, half the teams are in Canada, half are in the U.S. But that's one of the questions that's going to be have to address. I don't think that the Raptors would be able to play home games in Canada if the NBA starts up.
Yeah, it's all fair and love and war, Big C. I know we have this country is amazing, and I know we have our differences as a country, and that's great because you don't want everybody being the same. That would we be Russia. We have no opinion, no say so about anything. But the swing states, we talked about the swing states deciding the presidency of the United States. I'm just proud that people got out and voted. No matter what people thought, this country, this democratic process, it has to live on. And I think for the most part, when you look at what people fight for, I have so many veterans that have been a part of my family. I really hope that people don't forget the veterans. They put their life on the line so we can vote. And oftentimes they're not even thought about that much, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they're not, Charlton. But, I mean, this is where this country is very selfish in many ways. And it's not thinking about those who are left out in these scenarios.
Yeah, it's all fair and level war. People get out and vote. You know, POTUS is still going to try to go through the court. And so that's going to be what it is. But Americans voiced their vote. And for the people who did not vote, what a shame. A lot of people died for you to have the right to vote. And people don't have to agree with you. Just like people don't have to agree with Big C Sports, we don't agree with each other sometimes either. And that's okay too. But I just ask everybody to always look for the truth and find the truth, and don't be afraid to know that the truth will set you free. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in this sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we're basically down to just football now in the sports universe. We got 2 college games being played tonight. We got the NFL coming back on tomorrow night. And isn't it great that politics will be under the rug very soon? I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, our first responders. They're always on top, doing the world's best.
Always doing the world's best. And everybody understand that you can do anything you want, but you got to exercise the right every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.